Hey guys, and welcome to this Phlearn Pro tutorial, the Outlaws. We've got a really cool tutorial for you. This is going to last a while, so grab some popcorn, grab your friends, grab your buddies, and come around. We're going to have an awesome time. Now, we're dividing this pro tutorial up into a few different sections, and the reason is because it's a really complex and it's just a very expansive pro tutorial. Now, you're going to learn everything you need to learn, so we're not going to skip over things like that, but there is quite a bit of to cover, and in different areas as well. We're going to be doing compositing, a bit of retouching, we're going to be doing some special effects, so quite a bit to go over, and that's why we're going to be doing it in different sections. So this is the intro section. We're going to explain how the actual photos were taken and everything like that, bringing things together. We're going to plan the image, and we'll talk about how this is an accidental composite. So let's go ahead and start off by bringing our images together. I'm going to go up here to File. We're in Photoshop. This is CC. If you guys are using CS6, 5, 4, 3, even maybe 2, I don't know, they're going to be really similar. So if you guys are not using the latest version of Photoshop, which is CC, don't stress about it. They're all really similar. So let's go ahead and open up our files. I'm going to go to File, down here to Scripts, and I'm going to go to Load Files into Stack. Okay, now what we want to do is navigate to the file that was in your download. So we're going to hit Browse, and it should look something like this. Tutorial images. Now I'm going to shift click all these images, and I'm going to hit OK, Open. It's going to load these images into this little window here, and then we're just going to hit OK. What it's going to do is basically figure out, okay, I want to stick all of those images into the same exact document. So it's going to take just a little while depending on how fast your computer is. Okay, so once everything is together, these are all the images that we're providing for this tutorial. Now, it can be a little confusing at times to see, like, okay, well, these are the images that Aaron made to get this tutorial to work, but you know, I don't know how or why or where I would take my own photos. So we're going to talk about that quite a bit in this tutorial as well. But before we do, let's go ahead and group everything together. I'm going to hit F for full screen. That just allows me to have a really nice window. So we've got a few different background photos. We're going to get to those in just a minute. Let's shift click and hit Command G, group those together, and I'm going to just double click and call this BG for background. Let's make that invisible. Okay, next we have a couple images of our subjects. These are our main characters. Now, I said this was an accidental composite, and here's why. This photo shoot actually started out, we were going to do something really similar to the new Hunger Games shoot. We were going to actually photograph these people on a throne. We rented a throne, we had it in the studio, we were about to shoot them on the throne, and a buddy of mine came by with this motorcycle, and he was like, hey, you guys want to photograph with this motorcycle? And we were like, yeah, that's way cooler than this throne that we got. So literally during the photo shoot, we abandoned the throne and we replaced it with a motorcycle. And so there was very little planning on that going. Still shooting here on Gray Seamless. And as we were shooting on this motorcycle, we thought maybe it would be really cool if these were like, you know, Hell's Angels or like really cool bikers, and maybe they had some special abilities. So we decided to give them some fireballs or some kind of glowing energy or something like that. It just makes it a little more interesting. So basically what we did is we dropped in a couple lights. This is bare bulb here with a ton of red gel on it. This is the light right here, and this is basically the light that's casting on our subject here. And the rest of what we got is generally relatively broad lighting. We've got a parabolic reflector off to the camera left, and then a small softbox to the camera right as well. So this would, you know, the original idea was to have these people on Seamless, and I do like the image on Seamless, but it was just, we decided it was going to be a little bit more interesting if they were in a background instead of just blank on Seamless. So this is you know, how these people were shot. We've got a guy, and then our heroine is wearing some black, and then she's got a blue flame for her. So we're just going to go ahead and shift click all these. So even at the time of this shooting, this photography, I shouldn't say shooting, even at the time these photos were taken, we were not sure if these were going to be composited or just left on a gray background. So it was really once I started getting these into Photoshop, when I started editing them, and they were looking cool, but I was like, man, you know what, these would look a lot cooler on a backdrop. So that's when the decision was made to actually photograph a backdrop. But before we photographed the backdrop, we knew we wanted some kind of like fireball or something like that. So that brings us to our next photos. Let's just go ahead and shift click all those, hit Command G, and then call these bikers. That's what they are. They're bikers. Alright, next we're shifting towards our fireballs. These are actually photographed fireballs. What we did is we took a tennis ball and we skewered it. We put like like one of those kebab skewers for the barbecue into the tennis ball. We soaked it in lighter fluid, lit it on fire, set our exposure, and took a lot of pictures. And these are the pictures that are resulting. It was really cool. We did it outside in the parking lot at night. So obviously we're not going to set something on fire indoors. If you guys do set anything on fire, do it outside where there are no trees around. Please don't burn down your neighborhood just to make a cool photo. I'm sure I don't need to be telling you guys that, but I do really want it to come back like, Aaron told me I could just light things on fire all the time and it'd be okay. So seek safety when you do these things. So we've got a bunch of different fireballs here, and I'm really only going to use 2 of these, but I wanted to give you guys some variety, because who am I to tell you what fireballs you should put in your images? So I'm just providing you guys with a bunch of them. It was super easy to do if you guys want to photograph your own. Look at that guy. How can you not think that's cool? Super easy to do. So we're going to shift click all those. I'm going to hit Command G on those, and we're going to call this fire. Okay, and we'll just move that up to the top. There we go. And our background, we're going to hit Command, open bracket, that's going to move that down to the bottom. So that's basically the order that we have everything in. Now let's just look at our backdrop here, and I'm going to just do a quick little sketch. This is generally what I like to do when I'm trying to organize an image. Deciding like where the people are going to be, how many people are going to be the image, like what's going on, and things like that. So basically this is our background. Now you can see the background is made up of quite a bit of different images actually, and the reason is because I liked certain parts of one image and another part of another image, and we're going to be doing that in the next step. I'm going to show you guys how to create the background, but basically the idea here is I'm just going to sketch it on a new layer. We've got motorcycle 1, some handlebars and things like that. We've got the flame, our biker. Let's just undo that. Our biker is sitting on motorcycle 1 right about here. Motorcycle 2 is going to be a bit smaller, and that's going to be peeking out right over there. We've got our other flame guy right over here. We've got these flames that kind of, or I guess they'll be coming on this side. They kind of define the image, and then these we need the shadows and the highlights and everything to play with the bikers, and we need to do things like matching perspective, which we're going to get to, and you guys are going to love the section on matching perspective, by the way. It's going to blow some minds. I'm really excited to show you guys those things. So that's basically like planning the image out. So we needed to get the bikers, we needed to get some good backdrops that are actually going to work for the bikers, and then we needed to kind of composite them in. So that's basically the idea. Now when we started, the first thing that was photographed was these bikers. So when we started, all we had is these bikers. We didn't want to reshoot these either, by the way. If I had known that I would be compositing them into these backgrounds to begin with, I would have lit them differently. I would have lit them more simply, more like the background. However, since we photographed the bikers first and then had to photograph backgrounds for the bikers to be able to fit in, we had to take some things into account. And this is on matching perspective and things like that. I'll just talk about the couple of things you need to do when you're photographing a background if you plan on compositing in it. One of the first and most important things is your focal length. Alright, and this is what determines perspective distortion. So focal length, in this case, the man and the woman were shot between 35 and 40 millimeters. Okay, that's on a full frame camera. These were shot with a Canon 5D Mark II. Actually, sorry, they were shot with a 5D Mark III, and from 35 to 40 millimeters. So when photographing a background, you want to make sure you are in this range as well, 35 to 40 millimeters. And you can look at that on your EXIF data in your file in Lightroom or whatever program you use if you didn't write it down during the actual shoot. So you want to photograph the background at preferably the same exact focal length as the focal length you photographed your bikers. Or your whatever your subject. And the reason is perspective distortion. If something's super wide, your perspective is going to look like this. Like a room with people, and it's going to be like, whoa, it's crazy, right? If your perspective is, like if you were shooting with like a 200 millimeter lens, things get flattened out much more. So perspective distortion is extremely important. Make sure you match it with your background and your foreground. So we knew we needed to shoot about 35 millimeters. we knew, you know, somewhere about here is our horizon line, the middle of the frame. So basically I didn't want my where my vanishing point, we'll talk about that in a little bit, to be too low or too high. And I knew the camera was not that high off the ground. The camera was about 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet off the ground. So those are important. So make sure you match focal length. That's the easy one. You just see what it is in the original photo with your EXIF data. Figure out about how high the camera is. Figure if it's pointing up or down. That's pretty easy too. We'll tell you how to do that as well. And then the last thing is you want to think about your light sources. So we have our light source here, which is coming from this guy, which doesn't need to be in the background because we're compositing that in, right? And then the light sources here on the bike, we've got a bit of a front light. We can see it here. Not too much of a backlight, and we do have our shadow areas filled in. But we don't have a ton of rim, and what I mean by that is like he doesn't have like a yellow highlight right around him, right? There's not like a rim light that comes right around a person. This could be considered a rim, that red right there. But that's going to come from here, not from the backdrop. The same with the other biker. We didn't rim light her quite a bit because that wasn't the original idea for the photo. So in choosing a background, we couldn't choose something with a ton of lights back here, okay? And that is why you'll see when we change this image, I'm going to get rid of all these lights. These lights are going to go away because these lights would produce a rim light. Those lights, if your subject is right over here, let's say we have a face here. Hi everybody! These lights would, let's just draw that color there. These lights would affect this side of that person. You would see a slight rim of light right there, like, you know what I mean? So if you don't photograph a person with rim lights in the photograph, you want to look for a background that doesn't actually have lighting behind the person. And if it does, if you need to do it, you'll just have to fake it. You'll have to draw in your own rim light, which I don't suggest doing unless you're a trained artist, because it's extremely hard. So I would suggest just doing what I did and solving the problem with your lighting itself. Okay, so that is kind of like the breakdown of what everything's going to be going on, guys. So planning the image out, basically we know where our bikers are going to be. We know we got to build a background. We know why we photographed the backgrounds that we did, because you know they don't have a ton of light coming from the background. And we'll talk about focal length and everything like that as well too. So that's pretty much for the intro of this tutorial. I hope that kind of cleared things up for you guys on how we photographed everything and why we photographed everything, and also in the order of how we photographed everything as well. Let's just shift click the two of those, hit Command G, and call this PLAN. That's a plan there. Yeah, that's a plan. Everything, you know, if you got a plan, you're halfway to hitting your goal. So not too bad. Alright guys, that's the end of the intro. Next section we're going to be creating the background. We're going to be putting the background together. I'll see you soon. If I can stop my recording.